Hi, everybody. It's Ernesto, licensed marriage and family therapist and creator of Dumbit.com. Once in a while, like I said earlier in a few videos, I love interviewing other professionals out there who have been there, done that, doing great things in their community. And also for me as a clinician, as a videographer, as a marketing coach, to learn what not to do and what to do in reaching out to people like John. But first of all, before we go into this conversation about picking the right coach, knowing yourself in your business and all those things, I want him to introduce himself to you and a little bit about his practice. John, what's up?
Sure. Ernesto, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, yes. So tell me a little bit about what you do and,
hmm
anything that could be so people know who you are.
hmm Yeah. Well, I'm a therapist out here in Ohio. I work in Cincinnati. A licensed professional clinical counselor. And I see mostly people, anxiety, depression tends to be the kind of client that I'll see. But I do a lot of work with couples as well. And
Mhm.
so I do boundary work with them. I teach them how to be connecting, but also not too over the top. That
Yeah.
a lot of stuff comes with boundaries. And then also I've been able to take that work into my individual practice too, with individuals. Like I work with boundaries with men who don't know how to be affectionate
Mm.
and know how to connect with their partner. So I'd probably say that that's probably the bulk of my work right now.
Yeah. There's also a project that you're doing, right?
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that project because I've been watching some of these videos that you've done, and I'm pretty much floored. I mean, pretty exciting stuff. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the thing what I'm doing with it's called the True Calling Project, and it's kind of this experiential thing for me as well. I feel like I'm a part of the process. So,
Mm.
like, as you asked me that question that said, "What do you do in your practice?" and I feel like I'm ever evolving. So, what I did today is something that I did different than last year, and so my niche is constantly evolving. The why I'm doing it is evolving. And I didn't want to wait until I thought that I had it figured out to start to get into these interviews with people. What the point of the project is I want us to discover, not only as therapists, but also as people in general and in different professions as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
We have a good language on the how. We have a good language on like what we do, but I don't know if we can fully describe the why that we do it and what drives us, maybe even on a spiritual level, to do what we do. So as I'm talking with people through these conversations, I'm gaining a full understanding of what I'm doing in terms of the why. And so I'm hoping the guests are too. And of course, that's going to spill over into the audience. And so we can start to embrace the whys along with the hows and the how to's. And so we're having, that other side of that conversation, because I think it's really important with business and also, professional or, professionally and personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of us kind of neglect the why because we're trying to get clients, we're trying to have a successful practice, and then we forget the reasons why we do the things that we do, and we have to go to the basic core of that. Now, in your process, and I want to segue into this, part of your process that I'm seeing, and we talked about this earlier, is that you've reached out to coaches and a third for a second person to kind of help you through your own process.
hmm
And I know that that's a very important thing for a lot of people. And for those of you who are watching, some of the reasons and the drive for me to do videos like this is for you to be informed as a therapist, to know who you want to connect with, who you want to spend investment time and investment money with in through your process. So John, take us a little bit through your own process when you're hiring a coach or consultant or someone like me to help you with marketing.
Do you want me to start off with where I feel like I am now, or where I was when I first hired my first coach?
Ooh, let's go with what you said right now. I mean, that's a loaded question. Let's go with
As in
now.
right now? Yeah, yeah. Um, right now, I think it's really important that I get someone that's going to help me um, jump in my process with where I am personally
Mhm.
and professionally at this stage of my career. So I don't need someone that's going to be kind of turning me into a mini me. or like a follow me as I do person. I need
Wow.
someone that's going to kind of see where I'm at, understand that, like, if, for example, if I'm at level 3 or 4 of a multi-level process, let's just say at least 12 levels, there's probably more than that, but I don't want someone to expect me to jump up into, levels 7, 8, 9,
Mm.
um, and really take me to the next step. So I have a belief that the next thing that's there for you is right there. It's a matter of stepping through it. And in doing that, I've really got to temper my ego down and say, like, all the shiny things and all the promises and all the success and even maybe some of that fame, if that's even accurate in our profession,
Mhm.
that may not be what it is about right now. And I need a coach to help reorient me and focus me on what's important and which is within my grasp.
Yeah, I think what's really important for a lot of consultants and coaches and even videographers is, for me, when I do interview people about what they want for their videos, I ask them, who do you want to be portrayed? Who are you? Why do you do the things that you do? So there's a lot of introspection. So what I'm hearing you say is that when you hire a coach for you now or a consultant, that they make sure they
Mhm.
meet you where you are at in your process.
Right, because they're going to maximize what I have, as opposed to making me feel like I need to be doing something completely different outside of my natural skill set. And maybe some of those things I'll grow into, but it's gotta happen in its natural progression.
Yeah.
And so I think when you're going to hire a coach, I would recommend hiring someone who's done therapy or is a therapist. And if you're not going to do that, be very selective about the business coach that you hire, and they understand the sensitive nature of what we do as
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of the things that we do have us in it. We can't put us aside and then be our business side. I mean, for me, I think I'm merging both of my world, who I am as a person, into my business. And that's what I believe. I believe in personal branding. So, John, let me ask you, what are some of the takeaway? What are some of the things that you've learned through your process in hiring coaches and consultants to help you with your own process?
Um, so that's a really big question. So I've got a varied experience with different coaches. I've hired business coaches. I've got a life coach right now, if you want to call it that. Um, the biggest takeaway for me, and I think this is invaluable, is that you can't buy success. You can't. You, there's no formula to success. There is no, if you just do this, then this will result type linear thinking.
Right.
Um, it just doesn't happen. And I think that the quicker that you understand that and you stop fighting it, then you will be able to be more present with what you actually can control
Yeah.
and what is in your influence and what you're good at doing, to start seeing real results.
Yeah.
Instead of living in your head, you're actually able to see the reality that's on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we talked about earlier is this idea of sometimes we get, and you really mentioned something that really resonated with me, this idea of the ego and the entitlement piece of who we are as marketers, right? Can you speak to a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, and I may or may not use the term ego in kind of describing this, but basically, I think we've kind of coming awake to this very healthy idea that we are much more than we have given ourselves credit for in the past, whether that's personally and then also professionally as a therapist, or maybe I can speak to just generally the therapy field altogether. But I don't think that it's okay in many ways that we kind of take that sense of empowerment and turn it into something that's like, oh, well, because I've got a master's degree and because that I'm a therapist and I help a lot of people, therefore I'm entitled to do, anything I want with my rate or expect all these different results.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that, and I want to clarify, because this is kind of a very sensitive subject, anytime we're dealing with money, for example. But I don't want to think that I'm entitled for the success. Yes, you can make the decision to raise your rate any level you want, okay? But it doesn't mean that you're going to get the results. And I think that when we're trying to see what we deem as success, and whether that's a level like a number of clients I'm bringing in or amount of income I'm bringing in, and we see that like, hey, so-and-so did that, teach me how to do that because I'm entitled to, because damn it, I'm a therapist and I'm important. And then all of a sudden we kind of feel entitled in having that. And I think we get into really dicey ways of interacting with our potential clients, or how we market ourselves, even more so how we're not living like, and I will mention the ego here, like we're kind of living through the ego, as opposed to, hey, if I just do what's in front of me, I will get to these places, but the place is never the gleaming thing anyway. The process is what I'm doing this for. The money will follow. This thing will happen, and I don't want to reverse my priorities. And I think one well-intentioned idea has my experience. I've seen some level of entitlement come about, and I just want to help people, not in a shaming way, but kind of bring us back down to reality just a bit, and maybe that'll help us kind of find our balance a little more. At least it has for me personally. Yeah. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm not saying like, oh, I've got it all together and I'm pointing fingers. Like, no, this is something I've had to learn too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying that, and this is what I'm hearing and I'm seeing as well too, is, just because you've got a popular social media profile, people are following you, you've got all of this, then it goes, well, I can raise my rate. Okay, great. Just because you have an identity that makes people go, wow, you're popular, you're great. All that matters is going through the whole process, and how you can take another person who buys your product or whatever to take you. It's all about them. It's not about you, right? We're not entitled for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope. I think anytime you dedicate yourself to your work and being the best you that you can be, and of course that's going to show through in your therapy. But whether that's self-work, learning more about your actual work within your practice and your therapeutic model, be very good at what you do. The rate will follow you, because you'll feel that it's a comfortable thing for you, and then you'll grow. Your practice will grow. One of the most impactful quotes that I've heard, and it was from either a book or a podcast I was listening to. When people actually find real success, you know what they don't do? They don't jump around and say how great they are and how awesome success is. You know why? Because they've worked their ass off to get there, and it's almost like a deep exhale. It's not like this celebration and party and you want to like blast it off a rooftop. It's like, this is where I'm supposed to be because I've dedicated it. I believe in my work. I believe in what I do. This is the way it happened. And it's more of a humbling feeling of respect and gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really took that to heart. That's really been something I've been trying to reflect back upon as I go forward.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us have to, in some way, look at that, because when our why is made up of us, me, if your why is me, then there is that narcissistic kind of approach to your marketing, to your business, and then raising your prices. It's all because of me. But if your why is how you provide value, how you not only respect your worth, but also other people's worth, and committed to their success, your why becomes a little bit more than just, you don't have to jump up and down and go, hey, look at me, look at what I've done. Here's the people that I hang out with. Here's the people that know me. That money will come after that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Less talking, more doing, more trusting in yourself. If you want to talk about personal empowerment, let's talk about like the doing, the actual putting the rubber to the road, not just the talk. Okay. Because that's where you're going to actually have the most impact and feel the most influence in a positive and healthy way. And so when I'm working with my clients, especially my couples, I use this grid, and it's got horizontal and a vertical axes. And I wanted to focus on that horizontal axis because below this line here, let me raise my hand. below this line here is being in shame, and being above it's being grandiose. It's really easy to transgress this line of health. So we want to pull ourselves up, but we don't want to be really careful that we're not pulling ourselves up into a point where we're starting to behave.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to turn into narcissistic people in general, but we don't want to be behaving in these ways, because now we're starting to cross over, I think, a lot of the ethics that kind of brings us toward this profession to begin with.
Yeah, the manipulation marketing, the all these tactics. I mean, it gets really towards that unethical realm. It's all about the money. It's all about the bottom line, the finances, the numbers that you can keep up. Then you forget the soul. You forget the person. So respectful to those who you are marketing to.
Yeah, absolutely. And use insight when you're a student. You totally understand that you're a student, and sometimes we're students and sometimes we're teachers. I want to be a student most of the time. I want to be taking in information. I want to be learning. I want to be able to put my ego aside and say, hey, look, I may have believed this before, but now I'm open to new ways of looking.